Welcome in to another mailbag edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Tyler Jones, your fearless leader, here with you. And it is time to answer your questions. In particular, I got a lot of trade ideas to talk about. You guys are asking me about Micah Parsons, George Pickens, several others. Let's wait now a second more and dive right in to our mailbag segment this week. We begin with a $5 super chat from Shad Jameson, who writes in, what are your thoughts on Brian Cook? Would you re-sign him next offseason? So Brian Cook, coming off a season where he started every game in 2024, 17 games played with 17 starts. He finished the year with 5 pass breakups. He had 2 interceptions, 78 tackles. I think Brian Cook's a fine football player. I don't think Brian Cook is ever going to be a superstar, but I think he's always going to be solid. And with that, I don't think you're going to have to break the bank for Brian Cook either. I would gladly bring back Brian Cook, and you can get him at a reasonable cost. And not to mention, with you moving on from Justin Reid, with him in New Orleans now, he's the veteran holding things down at that position. And so you would like to have somebody that you can count on that's going to be there for a while. I would like to see Brian Cook back. I think he took some positive steps in the right direction after the year he had prior with 1 interception, and he had the 2 fumble recoveries and the 42 tackles. Brian Cook's a good football player, and he does what Spags asked from him. Look, here's the reality. In today's salary cap day and age, you're not going to have a star player at every single position. That's just not reality at this point. I don't think Brian Cook will ever be a star player, but I don't need him to be. I just need him to get the most out of what he's being paid, and I think he can do that. I think it makes a ton of sense to bring back Brian Cook. Folks, you may be wondering, how can I be a part of your next mailbag segment? Well, guess what? You're in luck. If you subscribe and turn on notifications, you'll be the first to know when we go live and have you this new content here on the channel, folks. The people that have their notifications turned on, we call them the Noti Gang. So stay in the loop and be the first to know when we have new content, whether it's breaking news or whether it's our live shows and you want to be a part of our next mailbag segment. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, youtube.com/ChiefsTV, and join the Noti Gang. If you're part of the Noti Gang, spam Noti Gang in the comments section. We'll continue here with today's show. Tony, we got your question in. It's right there, Tony. Listen closely. I'm interested in Tyreek Hill, Tyler, but I'm not sure KC has enough cap space. Well, Tony, glad you asked. We talked about Tyreek Hill this week as there have been discussions about him potentially leaving Miami, and he's made it no secret. He's not necessarily happy with his situation there with the Miami Dolphins. And you think about the money, the Benjamins. I know the Chiefs don't have a ton of cash to spend, but whatever team would trade for Tyreek Hill would have to adjust his contract anyway. And he has no guaranteed money beyond this year. So you could potentially work out a deal where you traded for him, lower the cap hit this year in order to work on a deal for the future to get him some guaranteed money in exchange. Only has a $10 million base salary for this year. If you want him, and if the Dolphins want to move on from him, you can find a way to make it work. You're going to have to get creative, but Brett Veach has been in this situation before. So money is not a problem. More money, more problems. Not in this case. You can bring in Tyreek Hill. It won't be easy, but it potentially could be done. The bigger hurdle, I think, that you have with potentially trading for Tyreek, and I think that you're going to see more of this in the future with AFC teams, who's going to want to help you? I mean, we've seen the Bills get bit in the ass twice with some of these draft trades they've made with the Chiefs for Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes. Do the Dolphins want to help the Chiefs get better? I don't know about that. We've already heard rumblings that the Bengals have no interest in doing business with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that might be harder to convince. Do the Dolphins want to help out the Chiefs? I don't know about that. Casey Mo Barks writes in, could the Chiefs trade for Micah Parsons? Ooh. That's an interesting idea there, Casey Mobark. So, Micah Parsons, he's going to get paid sooner than later. And the longer this drags out for the Dallas Cowgirls, the more his price is going to go up. Micah has been one of the very best defensive players in the NFL. Some would argue the very best defensive player in the NFL, getting 12-plus sacks every single season. He's a threat in a multitude of ways. But, folks, it's just too much. You got to pay Micah. You got to give at least a first-round pick and more picks on top of that. It's just simply not worth it. And what it would take from your cap and all that, I just don't see it happening. Would Micah Parsons make the Chiefs better? Honestly, I don't know if he would because of how much it would cost you elsewhere. This is not denying how good Micah Parsons is. This is not saying that he's not a great player. Actually, quite the opposite. It's just the cost, I think, just is too much of what you would ultimately end up with at the end of the day. I think it's a no from me. Should the Chiefs trade for Micah Parsons? What do you guys think? Type T for trade, P for pass. Way in the comments section. Let us know if the Chiefs should make a move for Micah Parsons or not. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose two or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, home runs in baseball. Springtime is here, and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The second half of the basketball season is here, and the push to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks, the best place to win cash on your favorite sports. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your $5 lineup. With the big dance wrapping up this weekend, I went with Emmanuel Shark to have more than 13.5 against Duke and Walter Clayton to have less than 20.5. If that hit, $20 turns into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. Link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, next question in the mailbag this week. Casey for all says, could the Chiefs trade for George Pickens? So there have been some rumblings that the Pittsburgh Steelers are shopping George Pickens. He's had a very good start to his career in Pittsburgh, but let me tell you two things to keep in mind here. Number one, George Pickens is a head case, all right? Some would call him a diva, would be the term that some people would use. He comes with a lot, and the Chiefs have a good track record of handling those situations well, but there's a lot of ego to deal with, and I don't know if Andy Reid wants to necessarily take that on. On top of the money, you got to extend him and all that with the money that he's due. But here's another thing to think about. I'll give credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second. They know when to move on from receivers. They have terrific timing on these things. From Antonio Brown to Juju, even more recently, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. You look at all these receivers. Mike Tomlin and that Steelers organization has a good track record of moving on from those receivers, and they don't do anything, or their careers quickly fall apart after they leave Pittsburgh. So what is George Pickens going to be if he leaves Pittsburgh? History tells us it's not a good track record. I don't know if I want to take that gamble. I think it's a no from me on George Pickens. If you're going to trade for a receiver, you can do better than George Pickens and not have to have the head case that is George Pickens. Should the Chiefs trade for George Pickens? Y for yes, in for no. What do you think about that possibility? Weigh in the comment section and give me your thoughts if you like the idea of trading for George Pickens or not. David Blocker writes in, do you think Moore can be the long-term right tackle starting next year after Taylor's contract ends? Well, I think ideally you'd want him to play left tackle. I think that's the thought. I know that the Chiefs are unlikely to bring back Jawan Taylor when his contract ends, and you'll be looking for help at the right tackle spot, but what you want is Jalen Moore to step in the left tackle position and be really good, and you rather, if he holds his own and plays the caliber that we saw in San Francisco in those 5 games he filled in for Trent Williams, be the guy, because the left tackle spot clearly is more important than the right tackle position. So if he struggles, then maybe you move him to right tackle next year, but I want him playing left tackle. That would be the more ideal scenario, I think. But that's just me. With that said, let's go to Nick. Nick writes in, do you think KC could trade out of the first round if the board doesn't fall the way Veach wants? Absolutely. Absolutely they could. This is one thing I talk about a lot. When people ask, you think the Chiefs trade down? Do you think the Chiefs trade up? All depends on the board. If the board is moving quick, then you move up. If the board, is playing to your favor or whatever it may be, yeah, you potentially trade down. Depends on what offer you get. Yeah, absolutely they could potentially trade down, but we'll just see how the board falls as it may for Brett Veach there. Last question. Paul writes in, draft William & Mary, offensive lineman, tackle Charles Grant, 6'4", 300 pounds. So I've talked about Charles Grant before. I think he's a good football player. He's kind of raw. But, yeah, I'm open to the idea of Charles Grant. I think he could potentially be a good fit there, William & Mary. There would obviously be a learning curve. It's a big adjustment for him going from that level all the way up to the NFL, but he's an intriguing prospect, I can tell you that much. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. For continuing Chiefs coverage, subscribe now, turn on notifications, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time.